NFL free agency has gone wild in the first 24 hours, and it's been unbelievable to see how much change is happening, and especially in this quarterback market. You have two guys like Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins going to different teams. And the craziest part about it is that it can mean absolutely nothing, but it can also mean something really big. I think both guys are in a very different situation with being in the same situation at the same time. Yeah, it's a lot of confusing words, but I'm going to break this down. It's very interesting to look at the situation of Russell Wilson going from a Super Bowl champion to, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for 4, 5, 6 years to Denver, getting a huge extension, getting cut. They're paying him $38 million to not be on the team this year. And then going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the most stable, organized franchises, with a coach that is probably a lot different than the coaches he's been used to in a whole different type of situation. And then you have Kirk Cousins, who's in the exact same age group as Russell Wilson. He ruptured his Achilles, yet he is one of the hottest, probably the biggest name on the free agency market in the entire NFL. It's really odd because Kirk Cousins is older than Russell Wilson. He turns 36 in August. Russell Wilson turns 36 in November. And they've had different types of careers. While Kirk Cousins has been phenomenal the last few years, he doesn't quite have the playoff success that Russell Wilson does, who's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl. Probably should have won 2. And Russell Wilson kind of is getting thrown under the bus in Denver. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest year, but he was thrown away by Denver, and now Pittsburgh gets to take a chance on a guy with a $1.2 million contract versus Kirk Cousins, who has pretty much been his agent must be the greatest negotiator in the history of the NFL. And I want to start with Kirk Cousins there. First and foremost, him going to Atlanta is a great move for him. Now, it turns out that there was a bidding war till the final minutes between last night and this morning on March 11th. This is according to Ian Rappaport, that the Vikings kept coming back trying to bolster the price up to try to get back Kirk Cousins, even though he's 36 years old, even though this contract's going to make him last till he's 40, and this man does not go anywhere without extreme guaranteed money. They kept trying, but ultimately Atlanta came out with the better deal. And he's going to be sitting there with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Van Jefferson. Obviously, it's a new coaching staff and different things, but they have a good shot. I know the Bucs brought back Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. You have the Saints, of course. The Panthers are going to try to get better, obviously, but they're not necessarily a threat in my eyes next year. They should have a great opportunity to break this little 7-9 curse that they keep having and getting the 8th pick in the draft and actually be a real good contender in the NFC. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, but they have a better chance than they did before, and Kirk Cousins has a better chance than he did before. Kirk Cousins has, only been out of the first round once. This is the type of offense that if he comes back healthy from this ruptured Achilles, he might have the opportunity to lead a team deeper in the NFC playoffs, NFC Championship, Super Bowl one day, if they get this all done correctly. Obviously, they have to get that defense down right. They got to protect him. He's got to be healthy, but there's a lot of good signs there. If you look at Kirk Cousins, since the 4th year, it was his first full year starting in 2015 with the Washington Commanders, then Redskins. He has been phenomenal. Multiple years, almost every single year except for 2 of them. Last year, obviously ruptured Achilles, but over 4,000 yards every single year. He's throwing high 20s or low 30s in touchdowns, and he's always in that 7 to 10 to 13 range in interceptions. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, whether people like to admit it or not. I feel like he gets some hate because of obviously the playoff success has not been there as much. And he gets paid really well. So he just gets hate, whether he deserves it or not. But he's been a top 8 to 12 quarterback, some years top 7 to top 6-ish in the NFL. And he's going to a situation that makes sense. I just found it very interesting that you had Russell Wilson, who, he's had, a less good year. But if you look at his numbers last year, they're actually perfectly fine. He wasn't awful last year. There was just drama with them wanting to drop his injury, his injury guarantee and things like that. But Russell Wilson ended up getting cut, getting paid $38 million from Denver to leave, and gets a contract for $1.2 million. It's kind of like, people are seeing it as his last chance. While Kirk Cousins, who's older than him by a few months, who's turning 36 off a ruptured Achilles, is getting another massive contract. I'm not saying Kirk Cousins does not deserve this contract. This is not by any means what I'm saying. It's just that I did not expect for him to come out and get another contract with extreme guaranteed money at this age. It's impressive, to say the least, what his agent has been able to do, because the dude just keeps bringing him in insane money and insane guaranteed money, especially, like I said, for a guy who's 36 off a ruptured Achilles. 4 years, $180 million with $50 million in signing bonus. And here is the contracts signed by Kirk Cousins in his career. And this is, once again, shout out to his agent. 2012, he had a standard 4-year rookie deal. 2016, $19.9 million fully guaranteed. 2017, he had $23.9 million fully guaranteed. 2018, he had $84 million fully guaranteed. 2020, he had $66 million fully guaranteed. 2022, he had $35 million fully guaranteed. And in 2024, he got a $150 million contract with $100 million fully guaranteed. So it was a career earnings of $411 million through 2027, which $329 million of it is fully guaranteed. And in parentheses, you see on this tweet, and 1 playoff win in 12 years. I don't think this tweet was actually meant to throw shade or anything, but it is a fact. 1 playoff win in 12 years. And this is the type of money he's getting still going into 36. And this is coming from a guy, me, who just told you how much I love Kirk Cousins and how much I believe that this is an amazing fit for him and he deserved another great opportunity. And I understand why the Vikings tried really hard to keep him back. But it brings me to Russell Wilson. And for me, as a Seahawks fan, as someone who, saw Russell Wilson at his peak, I look at this Kirk Cousins money and I say, well, Russell Wilson was, just as good and actually better than Kirk Cousins in many of those years, including just a few years ago. Russell Wilson is, we're talking about a guy who went to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. Like I said earlier, should have won a second, unfortunately. Did not. Has won multiple playoff games, went deeper in the playoffs many times. And we're talking about a guy who was a Pro Bowler, 5 years straight from 2017 to 2020, and then to 2021, sorry. And then the last 2 years in Denver, 4-11 and 7-8. This is where his career started to slow down. But let's look at the numbers for a second. Year 1 in Denver, he had 3,500 yards with 16 touchdowns and 11 picks. Definitely one of his worst years of his career, if not the worst. He had never thrown below 21 touchdowns before that. And 11 picks was tied for his second most ever. So it was a down year. But then the next year in Denver, I know they went 7-8, but he threw for 3,000 yards. This is in 15 starts, not in 17. 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, and, was playing pretty good. Almost a 67% completion percentage, up from 60% the year before. Russell Wilson slowly got back to who he was last year. Now, he's never been the same since he broke his throwing finger. I think it was on Aaron Donald's hand, kind of hit that middle finger on his throwing hand. It's never been the same at all. But he's not as bad as he's come across. And the fact that there's a team like the Denver Broncos who are willing to pay him $38 million to not play for them, and he's going to his last chance. And there's tweets last night that Russell Wilson's kind of going to be somewhat competing with Kenny Pickett. The fact that if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm looking at this saying Kirk Cousins just got a $150 million guaranteed off a ruptured Achilles, and the starting job in Atlanta had a great job. And I'm getting $1.2 million. And yes, I know he's getting $1.2 million because of the money he's already getting from Denver. So he is he's welcoming a team-friendly deal. But I'm just saying he knows that there's a difference here. even if he was cut and he was considered as good as Kirk Cousins right now by many, he wouldn't have to take a team-friendly deal. He would just get a lot of money from Denver and from the new team. And there's tweets saying he has to compete with Kenny Pickett. He's like, why am I coming? Why do I have to be a guy who needs to compete or fight for my chance while Kirk Cousins is coming off a ruptured Achilles? He's the same age as me, actually 6 months older. And I have way more success in my career than him. It's crazy to me if you ask. So I think it's wild. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes to Mike Tomlin with Arthur Smith is going to be the offensive coordinator, a fan base that is going to love him if he plays well and I hate him if he plays bad, but an organization that does things right, an organization that's going to lead him the right way, and he's going to be able to be himself in that organization. Now, the coach difference, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be. I mean, he's used to a guy like Pete Carroll most of his career. Mike Tomlin is a little bit different. I don't think, I don't think, and I think this is a good thing, though. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be able to have an ego, right? He's going to have an ego check there. He's going to have to just be part of this program, follow what Mike Tomlin says, follow the plan, follow the system, follow the organization. And if he does, and he does it right, and he's healthy, this might actually really work out well for both sides in a super positive way. The reason I find them both interesting, as I said in the beginning of the video, is on one side, this can mean a lot. If Russell Wilson works out in Pittsburgh, we're talking about a team that, I mean, they go like 9-8 almost every year without a quarterback the last couple of years. If Russell Wilson plays as good as he did last year, at least around that, or goes back to 2020, 2021 type of Russell Wilson, it's only 3 years ago, right? 2021, it was 3 seasons ago. It's not that long ago. If he gets back to somewhat of that, we're talking about a guy that could be on Pittsburgh and see a team do extremely well, a team that could actually go deep in a playoff run. And the same goes for the Falcons, a team that keeps getting stuck at like 7-9 type of years, or 7-10 now, I guess. And if Kirk Cousins comes back healthy and is the Kirk Cousins we know, we're talking about a team that's going to win the division and is going to compete in the playoffs after winning a division, right? Like, if you win the division, you're competing. There's no, like, every year he's been on the Vikings, they've been competing. I'm not saying they've been the favorite, but they're competing. But the crazy thing about both these is it's like a big shakeup in the quarterback market, NFL, free agency. But at the same time, if either one of those guys continue to decline, or like, let's say Kirk doesn't get healthy and Russell stays what he was 2 years ago in 2022, his first year in Denver, all of a sudden these moves mean nothing. So this is like one of those crazy times in free agency where it's like the quarterbacks are the biggest names. So the two biggest things off the board, it's a huge deal. But they're both like in a weird situation, both turning 36. One is coming off a declining like couple years, and the other's coming off a ruptured Achilles. It can either elevate and change these franchises, or it's going to mean nothing, and you're going to see a complete reset from both franchises again in a year or two if both guys don't play well. It's going to be interesting to see how they work out. I feel like both of them are boom or bust type of situations.